It's also true that such liberalization can be hindered and influenced politically. And in 2017, the Trump administration announced its withdrawal from the ambitious Trans-Pacific Partnership, it is called TPP. Then, what are the Asian nations' strategic moves for regional trade accords? And how should we build a protected region where goods, services, and ideas can freely cross borders for the benefit of all? Welcome to our session and repositioning regional trade. My name is Kenji Yokoyama, and I'm a professor and a vice president at the American Asia Pacific University, people call APU, and from Japan, not France. And also president of the Association of Asia Pacific Business Schools, consisting of 150 top business schools and in the Asia Pacific region, if I may say so. Then, in 2016, and the TPP was signed by 12 countries: Canada, the US, Mexico, Peru, Chile, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, and Japan. However, the Trump administration decided to withdraw from TPP in 2017, January. Later, it was newly signed as TPP-11, and which is going to go into effect in 2019. In Asia, ASEAN itself works as a free trade area, and members are Thailand, Indonesia, Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia. Most goods and services are right now and traded freely between the countries of ASEAN. Okay, then in Asia we have another free trade scheme called Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. Is that right? RCEP, not RCEP. Thank you. And the expected members are the 10 ASEAN countries plus Japan, Korea, China, India, Australia, and New Zealand. Oh my God. Thank you. And it is now in the process of negotiation. And what they talk about in the negotiation is strictly confidential. It is very difficult to get a detailed information about it. But now you know. So, then this session has invited 5 prominent distinguished discussants. Mr. Matlab Ahmed, chairman of Nito Niloy Group from Bangladesh. Welcome. And Ms. Bonnie Pachter, founder of EC Fulfill of Philippines. Welcome. And Mr. Nico Janao, partner of Pacific Consulting Group from Hong Kong. Welcome. And Ms. Diana Sabrine, co-founder of One Agri-X Singapore. Frankly, we have got 2 more participants, but as you know, a very big typhoon is approaching to us. We should be careful about that. Anyway, the typhoon has prevented them from coming. Okay? This is not their fault. The typhoon's fault. Acts of God. Okay, then I'd like to begin the discussion by asking each of them to introduce yourself first, then referring to your business engagement with a free trade scheme or something, and when you work out your business strategy, when you help work out business strategy, and is it FTA or threat or opportunity or something else. And this is my first topic we discuss. Can I ask Mr. Ahmad to say something?
Thank you. Mr. K.D.
Yes.
Typhoon or not, Bangladeshis are already there. So you can depend on us for joining such events. You wanted to discuss about our growth and all that and then come back to TPP separately? Or you want at one go?
And there's no big restriction. You can talk about both together.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. That's
okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Abdul Matlub Ahmad, Chairman of Niloy Group. I am the immediate past President of the Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industries of Bangladesh, meaning President of all the chamber institutions of the country. Now I am President of the India-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industries. Earlier I was with President of the Malaysia-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce. So I am in business for more than 4 decades now. My partners are Tata Motors and Aero Motors. In addition to my motor industries, we have insurance, finance, etc. Basically, I work on regional trade activities from the Chamber of Commerce. I am the permanent member of SAARC, which is the South Asia regional connectivity things. Then I'm working on BBIN, which is the Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal. We are working now on BIMSTEC, where the headquarters are in Dhaka, which is basically SAARC minus Pakistan. Because in the SAARC it's very difficult to go ahead. In 1984, Bangladesh had this regional South Asia organization, SAARC, but we could not progress because of the India and Pakistan rivalry. And therefore, it's very difficult to go to the free trade agreements and all that. We need half, and then now we are retracing. So, what I wanted to tell you, that any regional trade or investment agreements between countries, such groupings have always some problem somewhere. And we have seen, as in NAFTA or in other regional things, you can always find it's always continuously a negotiation thing. And some countries are rich, some countries are not rich. And each countries have got something in mind for joining such organizations. And therefore, we have to see and keep on negotiating. It should be dynamic negotiation so that it can continue in the future. Why do the poorer nations group together? You will find when you're not rich, if you look at the economically poorer segment of the society, you'll find that they live in a joint family or in a cluster because they try to help each other. And the rich guys or rich families normally have big mansions alone. So the poorer nations or the nations who want to move fast to a developed society, to come out of their unemployment or their poverty, they normally try to group together in order to utilize each other's facilities and pluses and share each other. So here in the rich ones normally join because they want to have their influence in that area. If we look at TPP, in TPP it was first, USA was not there. There were some other small 4 nations joined together. Why did USA want to join? The idea was, here in Asia, China is getting bigger, bigger and bigger. And therefore, when it's richer and bigger, it also wants to have its influence in that area. And here is USA, they suddenly thought, why not? We built a group which is biggest in the world, which controls almost 40% of the world's economy. Can we create certain things? Now, it was not economic reason to the main reasons for this. We look back to the history, TPP, the negotiations in USA within the country, The idea was how to get more US influence in these areas where China was slowly coming in. Now if you look at today, the TPP, countries like Japan gains because they can send their cars very easily to USA. But USA, I don't know whether they can send that many cars to Japan for sales. So there will always be some economically disadvantage for the richer countries. But there are some benefits. USA also has some benefits. But because of their own political reasons, they felt that they should give more stress to the economic reasons than the political. And this is where we stand now. So now this group of 11, country of 11, they have signed without the most important economy being there. The question in front of everyone is it good? Should it be done? From my experience in Bangladesh, along with all the regional areas, I have found that if you want to keep the same organization without the main driving force, it does not work. In the long term, there will be somebody, again maybe Canada, maybe Australia will say, okay, I am getting hurt economically, so I don't want to come. Especially if you look at the last TPP, the role of China, how it tried to take the leadership in the new position. So what I feel that this body, this discussion should also look at the new ray of hope, where the current US President has said that he would like to relook at it. So my theory is, if we can find out that if we can see how economically USA is also getting benefit, not only the political thing, then maybe TPP has a future. There is a question, there is some discussions on, can we think of some other organizations? There are so many organizations, OBOR, RCEP, and so many other organizations, ASEAN. So the need for another organization, just for the sake of organization, I think it will be duplicacy. So we should think of how to bring back USA into the fold, and then how to make TPP the biggest organization that was concept of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Ahmad, you regard TPP as a very important thing. That is why you want the United States to give back to TPP. I understand that. There are lots of political reasons behind that. Also, and we should discuss this kind of thing totally from a business person's perspective. Let me ask you, what kind of thing do you think about that? And Ms. and Sabrine, can I ask you the same thing? Please briefly introduce yourself and refer to your involvement or engagement in free trade area, or if you make a strategy, and that kind of thing is work as a threat or strength or situation, opportunity, something like that. It's on right now.
Thank you for having me. I'm Diana Sabrine, co-founder of WannaBricks, B2B halal marketplace, e-commerce. So today I would talk about FTAs and how it affects e-commerce.
Yeah.
So being a global e-commerce marketplace, FTAs are very important, especially for countries who are within the ASEAN sector. I mean, I'll focus on ASEAN sector right now, so because that's what I got for the memo. So for merchants and SMEs, importing and exporting of goods can be very costly, and it's a complex process cross-border trade. So with the FTAs, it actually addressed that and gives opportunity to countries within the ASEAN FTA to actually trade with lowered tax tariffs. So that's actually a good thing for us. So now we talk about SMEs. In global marketplace, for us, the suppliers, the merchants, they are usually smaller companies, small medium enterprises. So these enterprises, they no longer need to within the FTA, within their zones, they do not need to actually be worried that of going global. Because back then, globalization is mostly for those deep-pocketed companies. So with e-commerce, SMEs actually have the opportunity to actually trade and export their goods overseas. Because within their countries, they may be saturated markets or it's too competitive, and so prices drop and their business will not be able to sustain. So having FTAs for the e-commerce sector, I believe is really, really helpful. It actually creates jobs and gives small enterprises opportunities to actually have other income goals. So what Ahmad was saying, yes, developing countries, it's difficult for them to have FTAs, I understand. But I think we can actually encourage developing countries to get on board on e-commerce, whether using FTA or not. There's an example. For example, eBay did with Mail of Africa. They bypassed the FTA rules totally, no government rules at all, and they managed to trade out of bypass government rules. I don't know whether it's, it depends on opinions. Some people might agree that, you should keep within trade rules, but with e-commerce, that's actually very big. Even right now, a lot of, there's a hope that there'll be e-commerce FTA, but it's still in talks, the recent negotiations within ASEAN. So that's my opinion. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. I'm sorry. And Ms. Sabrain. She mentioned a very good point. SME is a viewpoint. SMEs stand for, a lot of people know it already, and medium-sized and small-sized companies actually. And in the case of TPP, they have got scheme that no matter where you are, you do not have to have a local position when you do business locally. Actually, you can do no matter where you are within the territory. You can do business no matter where you are. That's one strong point, favorable points to SMEs. And you mentioned very important, especially when you do cross borders and business, like e-business, something like that. And that kind of scheme works very well, actually.
Well, there are still challenges. For example, cross-border payment. Yeah. That's quite a hard thing. For us also as a tech startup, even though we are based in Singapore, we are not able to introduce global payment because of regulations. So if ASEAN or FTA is able to solve that, it will be great for us. Because right now, we might actually relocate our business to Europe, which allows us to take advantage of fintech companies to actually go global and introduce global payment. So that's, as I said, of course, SMEs within ASEAN, they should trade with each other, import-export. In fact, I wanted to bring up another advantage, other than economic advantage, would be cultural diffusion. So basically, with the models nowadays, they are the one that are spending. In coming to the future, they'll be the one that's spending money, transacting. So with that, they are well-traveled, and they experience culture, and free trade agreements actually help that. Okay, so how it helps, you introduce goods, for example, food, snacks. Let's say Singapore and Japan, they have an FTA. Okay, and Singapore loves going to Japan. The halal tourism there is high right now. So for SMEs in Japan, it's actually very helpful. They can actually expose their export business to Singapore and then create more jobs in.
Yeah. That's a very good point actually. And when it comes to free trade area, SMEs tend to be opposed to that kind of idea because they get into a free competition. And SME is the first person to be yielded, to lose in the game actually, but it is not true actually. SMEs should be given a certain opportunity. And the scheme of free trade area should provide a kind of opportunity to even SMEs. Okay, thank you. And Mr. Nick Janao, and please the same thing.
Thank you very much. So my name is Nicholas Janao. I'm a partner of Pacific Consulting Group. But I want to make a few remarks with another hat, which is an advisor to China Development Institute, which is a think tank in Shenzhen, across the border from Hong Kong. So I will make a few remarks about the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. And I think it's quite appropriate we're here today in the middle of the typhoon, but the show must go on. And it's a bit analogous to the trade situation in the world. So I'll make 5 simple points, and I will raise 3 questions, which I would love to hear the comments from the rest of the panel. So I wrote some notes, and I tagged my notes RCEP in the New World Disorder. First, we have the obvious. The United States under Donald Trump has withdrawn from international commitments, treaties, and norms, leaving us in a state of confusion. Despite that, the TPP 11 will take effect next month. Second, the RCEP does not have one country. It is acting as a forceful, longest broker to push that forward. And as a result of that, we have 23 rounds of discussions and failed deadlines, 2015, 2016, and 2017. Further complicating matters is that there are a lack of bilateral agreements within the RCEP negotiating members, notably between China and India, which makes the negotiations all that more complicated. Fourth, there is uncertainty in terms of how many members will actually join up for RCEP. Will it be ASEAN plus 3, ASEAN plus 6, and so on? And fifth, the disintegration of the WTO Doha Development Agenda means that there's no good global free trade framework to fall back on should RCEP fail. So with this in mind, CPTPP does not offer an Asian free trade area as it stands now. Only a few ASEAN countries are members of TPP. RCEP, on the other hand, is a purely Asian play, but without a strong driver, it might not materialize. So my 3 questions to the panel is the US-China trade war a complicating factor in RCEP negotiations, or is this America first an opportunity for Asia to accelerate negotiations? Now, question number 2, geopolitically, are the countries in Asia feeling the pressure to pick sides? And TPP versus RCEP, China versus the US, and how will that impact trade membership? And third and final question is a bit of a future prognostication. Will a completed TPP 11 and RCEP provide a stepping stone to a larger free trade area of the Pacific and FTAP? Or are these 2 agreements too different, and will they actually act as an impediment to a full Asia-Pacific free trade area? Those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Janao, and I'm great that we, through this discussion, we'll be able to answer all those 3 questions, I'm not sure, but let's keep those questions in mind. Okay, finally, thank you very much, and Ms. Diana Sableng, I'm sorry, and Ms. Bhakti from the Philippines.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bonnie Akbar from the Philippines, and I'm representing 2 organizations today. I am the co-founder of EC Fulfill. It's an e-commerce cross-border fulfillment and logistics startup. We cater to small, medium enterprises. And the other one is, I was just recently confirmed as an ambassador for the Asia Pacific MSME Trade Organization, of which the headquarters is in Singapore. And our goal is to pursue free trade discussions and agreements between countries. And so being here definitely adds to all the learnings that I've had last month with them. And the goal is really for us, for the MSMEs to be given a chance to survive, because the entrepreneurs in the world globally, 90% or to that number are small and medium enterprises. For the huge corporations that we have around the world, they will not be affected about any of the trade agreements. It's the small and medium enterprises and the startups of the tech world that are going to be hit. If we're not going to help them, there's no much progress that's going to happen. The startups, the tech startups, especially in the e-commerce side, needs a lot of help in scaling globally. It's the reason why we have Grab for Asia, which defeated Uber, right, in Asia, and all the other startups. And we can see the same in the tech startup world. There are a lot of countries. For example, here in Vietnam, I see a lot of products that are not in the Philippines, and there are a lot of products in the Philippines, and it's the same everywhere. So, to share with you, there has been multimillionaires in the Philippines because they were able to export and sell in Amazon in the US. And it's the same all around the globe, because what they do is they outsource from China and sell in the US. And I believe that's one of the reasons why Trump grew. Because, a lot of people outside the US are making money out of them. And it's kind of, in a way, the opportunity, because they're a consumerism country. So there's the chance. And English is a good way to sell these via e-commerce. And that's really where it's headed. Amazon is just the first stop. There's Rakuten in Japan, and there's Alibaba in China. And China is getting to be a huge, another huge economic country as well. So the free trade agreement, it's leading to that, whether we like it or not, whether all the leaders in the world crack down on all their laws. The tech disruption is coming. It's coming. Nobody can prevent it. No matter who leader will step in there, the tech disruption will be able to communicate with each other as global citizens of the world, with or without the free trade agreement. So the sooner that we can break down these barriers and have free trade, the better it is that we help all the medium and the small enterprises who are currently struggling, and the impact as well, because there are products that have a social impact on the poverty of the world, on the poor. They're the ones, especially in agriculture. So they're the ones who needs a lot of help, and who needs everyone's help, so that we can have some sort of free cross-border trade in between countries without thinking about a lot of costs, a lot of profit margins, and it's going to help these small and medium enterprises. In turn, help new entrepreneurs, churn new entrepreneurs. So that's really the goal. Right now, they're small and medium enterprises. If they're going to be helped, they're going to be the ones who's going to help the future small and medium enterprises as well. The huge corporations, I'm not really worried about them. I'm sure they can think of a way, but it's really the small and medium enterprises who need help. The tech, I can see the tech startups are the ones going to solve this, with or without trade agreements. There will be a global, I can foresee a future that there is a global movement to have free trade, with or without the laws and everything. So that's how I foresee the future. Currently, it's still a struggle. But I can see a bright future for trade.
I know the Philippines are enjoying the economic boom right now. The fastest economic development pace, I think. It is because you have got a very good cross-border trade. That's one reason. Is that right? And when it comes to cross-border trade, and it has nothing to do with free trade area. Is that right? Everything free, no restriction when you.
So what we see in the trend in the cross-border e-commerce in the Philippines is that if you can, just like in any other business, if you can maneuver in the struggles of a business, for example, having revolving capital, being able to start amazing global branding and marketing, you'd be able to make it anywhere else in the world. Except that, they still need mentors. So these are the ones who are there, perfect timing, right timing. But what about those who are in the impoverished areas? There are social entrepreneurs that need a lot of help for free trade. Because, the multi-millionaire e-commerce sellers, they are the shrewd ones. They think about the money. But those social entrepreneurs and those that are working for agriculture, they're the ones who are there to help. And they don't have funding, they don't know how to maneuver exports, imports, and the free trade and sourcing. So for the free trade, it's really for those who have social impact, for impact investing that will really help, with or without trade. Impact investing will help for those impoverished areas. For the rest, if you're an expert in business, with or without trade, you'll be able to, flourish and thrive in the cross-border trade.
One negative point about rely on such boundary trade. Usually, volume of trade is tend to be a little small actually compared with other types of trade. That's one thing. B2C businesses has a limitation in volume. That's one thing. But anyway, let me pick up what I listened to, from you, and let me pick up three important topics. One is pros and cons about the evaluation of TPP. Pros and cons without the United States. You want United States to get back. In your case, you have got another idea, right, Mr. Janal? Okay. Is there anything, Janal?
As a Swede, I have to keep one foot on each side of the border. That said, there is of course the issue of China containment. So from a Chinese point of view, a TPP without the US is preferable. The other thing to mention is the TPP is designed as a trade framework to force trade into a modality of the West, which does not exist in RCEP. And for that reason, it will be very difficult, I believe, for China to join the TPP, leaving RCEP the only alternative. So from a Chinese perspective, I think this is seen as an opportunity and a way to bring together what would be the largest trade agreement among developing nations with 3.5 billion people, which provides a very sunny future for Asia.
Also, you mentioned that without the United States, volume of the trade within TPP 11 is small size. It's no big impact. Okay. Ahmad, Mr. Ahmad, you want to say something?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
You have to understand that whenever there is regional agreements done, there are always certain things behind it. Why has China done One Belt, One Road? They already have a very big program going on. Now, China is also in so many other programs. China is also in the SARC as they're sitting in all our programs. China wants its economic strength now to convert into economic power. Now if you see USA, you can see Europe, they're having their own issues. USA has now a new issue of a new president who believes in nationalism, not cooperation in the world that we live in. So I feel that now the question is in Asia, do you want an Asian nation to lead or not to lead? What I feel that if for any reason Trump is removed, TPP will come into force with greater strength. And it's foolish to accept that USA will leave TPP so easily. Look at Obama, look at the other side of the coin, they will jump at it exactly what Trump had done. The first few days he removed TPP from the system, he removed himself from the system. Now if you look at the origin of TPP, this TPP was actually orchestrated by the Obama and previous governments to the interest of, the political interest of USA. It wanted to establish itself as a counter to the huge Chinese economic and political strength. So we the Asians now have to look at what has happened to Sri Lanka, where Chinese big loan was given for the Galle port. And the Sri Lankans could not run the port, China has taken over. Today Sri Lanka is in turmoil. Pro-China or pro-India? So all these, whatever rules, regulations, plannings we are doing, although we showcase the economic part, but the underlying factor is the political part. Earlier, USA used to give soybean oil and other things with a handshake picture on all those rice, everything. Because that is the way they used to control. Then the next thing was soft loans. So now, India and China is growing. And India also wants its strength. It wants the Asian nations to feel that they are the boss. So now we are facing like countries like Bangladesh sandwiched between China and India. So we don't know which way to move. Sometimes we come to China, they give us soft loans of 25 billion. If we go to India, they give us $5 billion, $8 billion soft loans. So we try to take benefits from both. But the thing is, if you look at TPP, the formation of TPP was based on the US concept of their own influence. So if you remove USA from here, this whole thing will become maybe over number 2, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. And before asking the general's answer to that, anyway, before that, I have got a very wide view, physically and mentally. So can I ask the floor to say something? And anyone, if you have got some idea to share, please raise your hand. Especially about this, how to evaluate TPP 11. Or if you want the United States to get back to TPP, something like that. Is there any opinions and ideas about these topics? Anyone? Okay. Can I ask you? Anyone can come in, free.
I think from the Asian point of view and the Indian point of view, the effort should be to collaborate within the region. The larger factors will keep playing their role, whether it is China, whether it is US. They have their agenda, they are moving ahead. China is active in ASEAN. China has become part of, as observer, SAARC, ASEAN already has deep business and trade relations. I mean, without getting into which model and which trade agreement will be better for the region. I think each country definitely has to look at its own people, employment for them, prosperity for people. And when it starts hurting the economy, the trade, especially the small businesses, definitely governments have to go into the defensive mode. But it is important still to collaborate rather than bothering about the bigger themes which are playing, because for some of the countries in Asia, they may not have much influence on those things. So it is important in the process each country looks at its own strength, its own positioning vis-a-vis the trade agreements, and how do you develop the capability, how do you empower your entrepreneurs, how do you support startups, how do you support micro enterprises. Agriculture is a big theme in Asia. Most of the countries have a huge base of farmers, growers. So again, there is a need to look at that segment of the economy, and rather than again competing within Asia, I think there is a need for SAARC and ASEAN to work together, collaborate, and maybe become the food supplier for the entire world. Look at processing, look at empowering the growers, farmers, and look at the themes which will really create wealth and empower the people. I mean, rest of the things are larger. One belt, one road. Infrastructure is important. I mean, why these countries fall into these traps? Sri Lanka was referred because they need infrastructure. Countries may not like, but they need large nations to come for the mining. They need those countries to come for exploration of oil, because who will invest on those things? So those factors will keep on playing, but I think it's important to look at the issues which each of the country has and to collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the floor? No? Okay, I'm going to ask once again later. And Mr. Janal, and you're involved in RCEP as well. Yes. Could you say something from that perspective in comparison with especially TPP?
I wanted to address one comment that Mr. Ahmad said, which is the economy and politics go hand in hand. And one of the interesting things today is the new NAFTA, which a lot of people look at it and says what was really accomplished. And a lot of people say not much. But there is an important addition to the new NAFTA, which is a poison pill, which is that anyone that signs up for NAFTA, which is of course only 3 nations right now, but any future trade agreement, the United States is poised to include the same provision which precludes members who sign up with a trade agreement with the US to sign up with another free trade agreement with a non-market economy. So, which is the non-market economy, of course, is China. So there's a bit of an urgency from the Chinese perspective right now to drive these agreements before the US rejoins, if it rejoins the TPP, because this will definitely escalate matters politically.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Yes. Thank you. Could I ask you to mention your name before?
Yes, I'm from Contra, and my name is Yu. And so I'd like to make a few remarks. At first, I think we are talking about multilateralism here. And actually, RCEP and PPCPP is a regionalism. However, broadly speaking, it is some sort of multilateralism. However, as far as I know, the Trumpian administration has been emphasizing bilateralism. And for instance, think about an interview in the Senate or in the House hearing. Mr. Lighthizer, USTR, emphasized many times, U.S. has no intention to rejoin TPP. He repeatedly emphasized no intention. U.S. has no intention to join the TPP once again. And because, as you know, the TPP itself, PESA was much better than the TPCPP. And in terms of service and labor and in terms of all the things, much better than the current TPCPP. And it's a pity for US to join the TPCPP once again because all the good conditions have been excluded from the TPCPP. And so in that sense, I think the US has no intention to join TPCPP. And it is much better for them to get involved in bilateral trade agreement. And the US Lighthouse has emphasized many times his top priorities with Japan and also Philippines and also in the Asian countries or some other countries. And also he was asked about bilateral agreement between United States and Vietnam, and he did not mention about it as a top priority. In this sense, I think we are talking about TPCPP and also RCEP. However, most important thing is the US has no intention to join TPCPP. And also the second thing is, I think, I'm not sure, however, the second thing is that how about the Trump administration is moving? This is more important than any other things. And we are talking about RCEP, and I agree with you. However, United States knows about all these things, and so perhaps Trump is very capricious, and sometimes he might change his mind. In that sense, perhaps he might join once again. However, at the current situation, I don't think the United States might be tempted to rejoin TPCPP, I think.
Thank you very much. You know a lot about it. You should be one of the speakers here. Why don't you sit here? Any other comments? Yes, thank you. Could I ask your name first?
Sure. My name is Tu. I'm from the Australian Consul General. So actually, I represent the Australian Consul General, but I'm also Vietnamese. So Australia and Vietnam are in the CPTPP, the TPP 11, and I was wondering because Vietnam was supposed to be the biggest winner, as in the old TPP, but after the U.S. withdrawal, we were not that much. We don't really benefit that much from the new CPTPP. But my question here is maybe for Professor Yokoyama. So if you can, because as Japan is taking the lead on the new TPP, so I was wondering if Japan has some agenda to step up its games to support the other members in the new trade deals. Because when we talk about trade deals, we talk about like GDP, we talk about gains in export and import, but people, I think people often overlook the other effects, like spillover effect of other, for example, like labors or know-how spillover effect from that definitely developing countries like Vietnam can benefit from Japan, for example. So I was wondering if Japan has some agenda to lead the new trade deal. Thank you.
In the case of Japan and other, administration has a clear view actually. They want the United States to get back to the TPP, whether you like or not, because the United States started initiating this negotiation of TPP, and forced Japan to participate in the program because Japan was so interested in having bilateral or multilateral relationship with the United States, and Korea had a relationship with the United States much earlier than Japan, so that forced Japan to do something with the United States. So what is most disappointing thing to Japan was the withdrawal from America's withdrawal from that scheme actually. So disappointing. So anyway, Japan won the United States to come back because the trade volume with the United States is the biggest. They expect them to be bigger than that. Another one is that labor things. Japan is very, very cautious about that, and they try to expand and the number of workers who can come to us for simple labor, and because we are lacking of human resources right now. But even so, we do not want a lot of people to come, immigrate to Japan. We are so very cautious about the free movement of people. That kind of thing. Is there any comments? Okay, and Ms. Bakker.
Well, I'd like to explore further what our Mr. said earlier. You weren't able to get your name, but what you said was very good. You said that all the nations, at least the Asian nations, needs to focus on this collaboration between each other, because he believes that the future is that we can have agriculture and we can be the source of food globally, and I totally agree on that. I haven't seen a total collaboration of all the Asian nations except for the ASEAN. I know Asia Pacific are, the Asia Pacific nations are now moving towards more unity. In tech, even in startups, the tech startups are killing each other to get to unicorn level once they have the investors. For example, Lazada, Shopee, Grab, and all the other tech startups. And it's a matter of who gets the most funding. And who gets the most funding gets the larger percentage of the market shares, because they have the funding. So I really agree on what he said, that each nation should be able to know what their needs are and be able to progress forward into how they can collaborate with each other. I haven't seen that into any trade agreement, especially in tech, because the export-import, they're huge, they're big, except that in the e-commerce marketplaces and in the tech startup, it's moving way faster than any other law or agreements that are, that are being drafted. And for example, Grab has disrupted virtually everything. They're now in venture capitalism and they're now investing into a lot of other startups as well. And I would, when you mentioned, Mr. Kenji Yokoyama, about the lack of human resources for Japan, except that Japan doesn't want, people to immigrate. I kind of agree, because for example in the Philippines we always have a surplus of human resources, and immigration is one of the ways, as overseas Filipino workers, we're known for that. And but how do we, aside from products and services, import and export, I believe that in the services sector, because there's also the rise of digital nomads around the world because of tech. So how do we now support these digital nomads? Because I really believe in the future that everyone wants to be a global citizen. Passport or not, visa or not, everyone just wants to visit each other's country, be there for a few short months, be able to work for anyone in any other country, and then just go back to any other country. So I really believe in that future. So in Japan, have you had experience of digital nomads working for Japan, and how are you going to prepare for that future? Because the future of work is now going into virtual.
And the digital nomad is a quite interesting word, actually. When it comes to flow of labor, I am not a representative of the Abe administration, but Japanese people need human resources right now. But practically speaking, we are a little bit selective right now, I think. Yes. Yes, a little selective. And we try to accept as people belonging to what should I say, have professional knowledge and skills. That's one thing. And university teachers and lawyers and doctors, something like that. But when it comes to simple neighbors' viewpoints, and even though we have a lack of human resources even in that area, we accept them. We accept only for term basis. We do not give an eternal citizenship at all. We tend to be a little bit selfish to some extent, if I may say so. And this kind of idea is not, cannot be accepted by other countries, I'm sure. But if I say the truth idea about the Japanese viewpoints, and I can say like that. Okay.
Thank you. I'm from Europe, as you might recognize.
Yes.
I'm from Holland, and we, as you know, we are part of the European Union. And as we speak, we just agreed about the Brexit, so that's a bad sign on one hand. But I also want to share with you an aspect which has to do with the free flow of talent in Europe. And as you recognize that the industry also in Western Europe is growing, and we are definitely interested to see how migration of talent can help us to accommodate the needs of our industry. And we have two major flows of talent, and one is migration of refugees, which on one hand is considered as a problem, but now more and more considered as a big challenge, and also an opportunity which help us to serve the needs of a well-educated workforce, which we can definitely use to accommodate the growth of our industry. And the other is the free flow of talent within Europe, which is actually part of our regulations, which means that any citizen from eastern part of Europe, where the economy is a little less developed than in the western part, can easily migrate and work under the standard conditions in any part of Europe. And I think that is, at this day, still a success factor, which also benefits the whole of Europe and especially our economy. So that is definitely, and I listened to this discussion, I was in the other one this morning. We speak a lot of the flow of money investment, but I think the free flow of human capital is one of the differentiators in the way we can accommodate the growth of any economy here in Asia. So I would definitely urge you to put it high on your agenda.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Janal, once again, can ask you, and in comparison with TPP, so you expect a lot from ASEAN, is that right?
My expectations, that's a tricky question. That's way beyond my pay grade. I don't expect anything to happen this year based on the experience from 2015, 16, and 17. I do believe that there's a sense of opportunity to conclude in 2019. But again, I think the biggest challenge is the lack of one strong leader to drive the negotiations, and number two, the difficulty between the two largest participants, China and India, to come to an agreement. These are the two main challenges, and if I had the answer to that, I'd be a rich man.
But if it is realized that, materialized that, and it could give us a lot of benefits.
Come again?
And if it is, joint agreement and conclude an agreement, in that case, then it will give us a lot of benefits compared with TPP 11.
For sure. TPP without the US is just a fraction. It is not at all the free trade agreement it was envisioned to be. And I think that's where the opportunity lies for Asia. So back to your point, will the US rejoin or not? I think that will certainly be the main influencing factor. But in the meantime, RCEP is, in my opinion, the only game in town.
Okay, then, yes, and Ms. Abraham.
Regarding the TPP, all I'm hearing is, we are disappointed that the US is not joining, but I think the countries that are in TPP, they should start thinking forward and raise themselves if US do not join back. That should be the mentality, not like, okay, let's wait and see, is US joining us back? I think maybe we can address here on how Asia or countries that are in the TPP can actually move forward without the US synergistically. I mean, I know Mr. Janelle, sorry about that. Janelle mentioned that two superpowers trying to take lead, but I'm an optimist, I'm an entrepreneur, so I think working together and being synergistic can be a better, I think can be explored. Yeah.
Thank you. Any comments from the floor? Okay. Why don't you use that microphone?
Thank you, Professor Yokoyama, for the opportunity, and it's nice to meet you here again after our university days. I was his student before.
He's one of my students when he was a student. Very good student.
Thank you very much. But so I'm Ivan from Awina Synergy Indonesia. Actually, my business is mostly involved in renewable energy and environmental related business, but we also manufacture our own products. So that's why we are quite interested to explore more about these CPTPP issues. So actually, my question is, since I need to refresh my knowledge on the CPTPP, I just would like to know, maybe can be answered by Professor Yokoyama or maybe other panelists in here, how actually does this CPP already put into implementation, and how does actually the countries being a member of the CPTPP already taking benefits of this? So maybe this is something that we would like to learn more, especially from the side of Indonesia actually, because our president have interest to participate in the CPTPP, but I don't know, coming to the president election next year on April, what will be his policies will be. So that will be my first question on the implementation of the actual CPTPP after ratification. And the second one is, if I may ask another short question, is there a possibility that CPTPP can provide a benefit for participating countries to get some kind of a capacity building so that they can make their trade to become more competitive? Because as we know that in the previous decade or maybe some years back, trade is, especially from countries enriched in natural resources like Indonesia, is more of an exploitative kind of business in which very less value add is there. So I just would like to know whether there is a leads or there's a potential opportunity for countries like Indonesia. For example, if we will be a member of CPTPP, then we can have more added value economy so that we can trade not only just the raw material of the product, but we can also sell the added value product to other countries. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, and you studied a lot after graduation, right? You know a lot about that, and I'm afraid I cannot answer to his question correctly. Any comments? Mr. Janal?
Just a quick comment to that,
Yes.
which is that TPP, as the original agreement, was criticized as an agreement primarily for big business, and there's a lack of capacity building.
Thank you. Any comments? And if I may say something about the second question, actually, and the TPP has got, for example, two important schemes. One is that full cumulative country of origin relations. Full cumulative means that no matter where you produce something, and raw material and parts, assembly, if you do that within the country, and 11 countries, and it can be regarded as as I say, and the product within the region. You know what I mean? So it is quite, what shall I say, a good system for enhancing supply chain system within the territory. That's one thing. No matter, you'll be able to involve in one of the supply chain. Okay? You don't have to be a final product placed necessarily. Another thing is that someone said that in SMEs cannot have a production site or management operation site in each country. But you can do business no matter where you work. And that's another advantageous point that TPP 11 has prepared. I think. Okay. Are there any comments about that? Okay. Let's finish talking about macro perspective of multicultural multilateral and a free trade zone and bilateral as well. I want to focus on SMEs. So that's a very good point. Okay? This kind of system is not advantageous to SMEs, people say that. But SME has got the chance if we have got a free trade system. So, when you do business, is there any actual barriers, difficulties when you do business right now? And what kind of thing you should get rid of?
Sorry, your last question? What
Yes.
kind of?
What kind of thing you should get rid of? You should take
Okay.
rid of.
Being a global marketplace, we represent the sellers and buyers, right? So the thing about, in the first place, the problem we have is SMEs right now. A lot of them are not even aware of free trade agreements, free zones. They are not aware of it. So I think that the challenge is education. In Singapore, actually, they're doing a good job. They're actually trying to. There's a form of education being given to SMEs to actually say that, hey, you know, there's free trade here. Your company can be 1 year old, but you can trade globally. You see, that's the beauty there. And it helps create jobs, and there's opportunity to actually export their products. Whereas back then, when it comes to globalization, it's only for big marketed companies, big MNCs. So with global trade going to e-commerce, the challenge is that they're not even aware that they can take advantage of FTAs within ASEAN or other countries. Like, for example, for us, halal trade, there's a GCC Singapore with the Gulf. But Malaysia, they do not agree on it yet. They're still, as of last week, they're still deciding, and Tun Mahathir is still thinking whether they should be part of it. He feels that it's not advantageous to Malaysia. So that's one challenge that we face. Second is logistics issues and global payments, I've mentioned way earlier in this panel. Because, I mean, if you want to trade globally, you need to have global payment system. And right now it's really hard. I mean, Bonnie Factor, she can attest to that. You're doing Amazon, right? So global payment factor, that we need to solve that. Government should actually help. I mean, there's fintech that we can actually take advantage of, but also it's subjected to regulations within countries. I mean, I'm in Singapore. Let's say we want to use global payment from France, okay, but we can't do that unless we are incorporated in the economic zones in one of the European economic zones. That's just an example, the challenge that we have.
Thank you. The same question and Ms. Bacta, is there any comments? And you were can I say that your company is SMEs, one of the SMEs in business, but you were mainly involved in over-boundary business. You said that no matter what barrier it is nothing to do with your business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are servicing mostly MSMEs right now. So at the beginning of our startup, we first identified micro, and then learning that they don't have the money, we're going to die. So our startup is going to perish if we continue to serve them. So we shifted to small and medium enterprises. Now that we're helping the small and medium enterprises, their challenge is they don't have the money to spend on digital advertising. Yeah, okay. Now that they don't have the money to spend on digital advertising, if we continue to serve them without this money, we will probably perish as well. Yeah, so we're in the cross-border fulfillment and logistics side, and once our online sellers or our small and medium enterprises succeed in the e-commerce marketplace, we will succeed. So their success is our success. And I kind of agree with Diana that Singapore is doing a great job orienting the SMEs because they have. So in Singapore, and I claim that we will be able to have this kind of system all around Asia as well. So in Singapore, if you register as a startup, as a business, immediately you log into a database list, and once you're in the database list, you are given all the support that you need. And that's including education, that you can already have free trade agreements between these countries. They have a lot of support. And that's in Singapore and Japan, because you guys are in the developed country. For us in the Philippines, Vietnam, and the rest of the non-developed, the struggle is there. And now we need to learn global branding and global marketing if we want to compete with the global brands. So for the e-commerce sellers, our advantage is the English language. So the advantage for the Philippines is the English language. Because of this English language, we can globally sell in Amazon. So, and because of that, we have Payoneer as a fintech. Logistics, I would agree, is one of the things that we're having a hard time with. Yeah, because it's very expensive. If I'm an SME who wants to sell in the US, that's where I want to sell, because that's where I can times 5 my profit. I can't sell in Vietnam because it's razor thin profits. It's only in the US that I can sell because of the conversion, and maybe in the European countries. Except in the European countries, the e-commerce marketplaces, there's no e-commerce marketplace like Amazon that dominates all of that in the European countries. So that's why our multi-millionaires in the e-commerce area, they were able to get their money from sourcing from China and then selling in the US. Yeah, and in a way it helps them independently. They get rich. However, the country and the development of within the country, not so much, because it doesn't trickle down into the workers, into the small and medium enterprises. Yeah.
The money does not drop on your country in that case. Just yes.
There's so there's a few that breaks through. Yeah.
Not bad actually, but you really more.
Yes, I mean our startup. Ideally, our startup wanted to help. When you start a business, that's what you wanted to do. You want to help people, but then when you realize that when you help them, you won't be able to help yourself. That's when you pivot to those who have money. But then if you pivot to those who have money, you may not be able to help those who doesn't have money. So that's the chicken and egg.
Chicken and egg.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you everyone. And there is a very big topic. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to talk about this topic, that is SME and e-commerce. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm from Bangladesh. You can tell me a small answer, but I have some simple question and some points. As you know, Bangladesh is a very economically growing country, and our government has very direct interest on our, e-commerce and other things and everything. Our government actually directly deals with it, and we have very vast track to progress in this area, that is the e-commerce area. And I can say one thing: there is a long and big young people, and housewives and SME owners, those who are actually using Facebook platform to do this e-commerce business. And there is a lot of e-commerce site in our country. So, and it was, another topic was about SME. We have very strong foundation, SME foundation. And I can say that our government giving a lot of free interest-free loans for this SME foundation entrepreneurs, especially to the women. And you know about the BRAC, which is actually the largest NGO, and that is from Bangladesh, and a lot of NGOs are working for SME Foundation and other things. So I don't want to go for further details. You know about it. My question is that As two beautiful ladies was talking about free FTA, that is free trade agreement, I want to know especially, what do you think if we Asian countries sign the free trade agreement, how you will save our, like Bangladesh? So if you are giving example of Amazon, the most product are from Europe, USA, or even from China. Bangladesh has only Jamdani shari, is the traditional dress, and some like pottery, and some like handwork fabrics, and some jute products. In that case, how you will save my products and my entrepreneurs if I do sign with you FTA? That is my question. And another question to you, as you are working with halal products. In my country, 92% people are Muslim, so we believe in halal products. So are you interested to take the product sources from my country, or you just want to sell your halal products in my country? In that case, how actually my people will get benefited? That is my question. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bhakta, you can say something.
Thank you, and I have my two co-founders here. Yeah, actually, they're at the back, and that's our vision and mission. There are a lot of indigenous products, like what you say, pottery and handworks that needs to shine, and not just in Asia. We can bring this in Europe, in the Western countries, and the profit margin is big. It's big because of the conversion, and this is what we're looking forward to. The challenge really is, whenever the profit margin, whenever we compete, for example, we'll bring your product in the US or in Europe, we need to compete globally in branding and marketing, because another Chinese company will be able to compete with you very easily, because they really have low sourcing, sourcing profit margin of the product for the very beginning. So that's all of the challenges in the world right now. Even those who have patents, for example, they have tech patents. I've invented something, and for example, drones. I have a patent for a drone, and because of this patent that I have for a drone that I invented, I can sell this for times 5, times 10, more, and I deserve that patent. Except that, here comes China. They'll copy that technology, and there's going to be a harder time, helping the underdeveloped countries to compete because of China. So, and that's where creativity, marketing, and branding really goes hand in hand. And this, I believe, I'm not blaming China for that, because they've been really creative. When you see Alibaba, they've been really creative in how they are going to present the products. And this is something that I believe all the underdeveloped countries needs to learn. Once underdeveloped countries are able to learn global branding and global marketing, then we can compete globally. So I believe that's one of the things that SMEs needs to learn, aside from financial management, aside from free trade, the global branding and marketing. Even if we sign the free trade agreement, if no one buys from us, because it's still cheaper in China and they have very beautiful photos, and they can, because their infrastructure and logistics are already in place, they can send it in one day to all of the countries worldwide, then we won't still be able to compete. So all of that. Free trade agreement is just one area. There's a lot of moving parts as an entrepreneur, so that you can be able to compete globally. I don't know if my co-founders would want to add to that, because they're the ones who are facing each of our entrepreneurs daily when we bring them to Amazon. So a lot of them is SMEs really needs a lot of hand-holding from the beginning, especially when they're establishing their branding and marketing aspect. I hope that I was able to answer at least in part your question.
In the case, what you mentioned is a matter of marketing, right?
Yeah.
So, can free trade scheme solve the problem? No, I don't think so. Free trade is one thing, as you mentioned that.
Free trade is one
And
thing.
branding is another.
Branding and marketing is another because that costs a lot of money. Digital photographs, how you write the features of your product is also another because how are you going to convince them to choose you over China? So that's another matter. If you lower the tax to enter, for example, India, because India is $1 billion country to enter into, and there's currently no free trade agreement in there. They have a huge e-commerce marketplace. So India is one area that we can really look into to enter aside from China and the US. If we enter India, even if we lower the tax, the next struggle, because free trade is the taxation. So even if there's zero tax, our next struggle would be marketing and branding and how to compete with China. So it's not that they're really competitive. It's just that they were able to master the global branding and marketing. They really studied it in the past years, and that's why they're the ones who has it right now.
Mr. Green, and could you answer to that second question?
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. So I hope we get a good, there is wine has always two parts, so there should be equal part. So we hope that all the Asian countries, they will get good solution for e-commerce side. Thank you.
Mr. Green, could you answer to that second question?
The second question is regarding whether we are selling halal products to Bangladesh or Bangladeshis. So when we founded Monagrix, the main purpose was to actually get together halal products from all over the world. The main thing is, of course, to encourage small businesses globally to export out their halal products. It is never to, sell our products to other people's countries, about other countries, other SMEs, to actually list their products on our portal, our platform, and to actually benefit from it from marketing. Because Factor was mentioning that, for SMEs, they need lots of hand-holding in terms of marketing. So what marketplaces do, like us, if you take the example of Malaysia's digital free trade zone, what they do is governments actually, they took a holistic approach with PFTZ. So Malaysia, what they did was they handhold the SMEs. So from cross-border logistics, they support. Government policies, they support. So, it's at the government level. I mean, if you want SMEs to export out their countries, I know that infrastructure always is the issue here. Sometimes, for example, farmers, they might not have proper, infrastructure to deliver their goods to a warehouse. But I think if Bangladesh has, this is my opinion, don't take my word for it. I feel that if let's say there's a dedicated area where small farmers can consolidate their orders together and export out, that can be one way. They actually save costs, they share the logistical costs together. That can be one way, apart from government subsidy. Yeah.
Is there any comments from the floor? Okay.
Coming into the e-commerce topic, Indonesia have about $10.9 billion of transaction in 2017, which is 41% increase from 2015, which is 5.5 billion. But this $10.9 billion, 94% is actually selling product from China, made in China product. So actually, my concern in this is that e-commerce is just a way to support the invasion of Chinese products, or actually is there a way that e-commerce from between nations, or is there any possibility that e-commerce between nations that is still relatively less competitive than Chinese product can somehow have a platform to collaborate together so that we can increase our competitiveness. I think this is something that needs to be explored so that we don't have e-commerce to be just an enabler of Chinese product, but also to make our product to become more competitive. So I just would like to have some views maybe on this comment. Thank you very much.
You want to say something? And be back there.
That's actually a very, futuristic view of how Asian countries can, collaborate. Our Mr. here started with that. It's really in the tech industries that we can really help each other with or without free trade agreement. The ASEAN organization and the Asia Pacific organization needs to have a more digital approach to free trade agreement. And when I say a digital approach to free trade agreement, it's really more of what are the products in each of the countries that we can bring into an e-commerce platform that everyone, every government, every SME can look into, and not just Lazada and Shopee and Amazon. Because in Lazada and Shopee and Amazon, those who will win are already the e-commerce multimillionaires who can spend millions on digital ads on Facebook and Instagram. So I really believe that the free trade agreement needs to be digital.
I think, if I may say something, and we need to have a very proper supply chain system within the nations, within the area, where a lot of people can be involved in a part of that supply chain system, more or less. Digital, platform providing, or production actually, marketing, something like that. That kind of supply chain scheme should be ideal to think about. Any comments? Okay. Then, we're getting hungry right now. So, really tired. So, it's time for us to finish. And 2 minutes before that, my professor when I was a student, and they made it a rule to come to the classroom 10 minutes late and finish the class 10 minutes early. So 2 minutes early, I'm a good professor, I think. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming, and I really enjoyed. Thank you very much.